Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here on this blissful Dwadasi. I hope you all had a nice Ekadashi and Dwadasi. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, after ending a lecture in Munjir, an earth tremor caused a mild flooding of the adjacent Ganga, which was right next to him, and the water soon receded. And then Srila Saraswati Thakur said this: in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, for if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after the flood has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai, all right. 24, chapter 24, Madhya-lila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has just finished explaining the famous Ätmäräma verse, 61 varieties of ways, which is boggling to the mind. All we can do is just hear and appreciate and concentrate our minds on how merciful and how wonderful Lord Chaitanya is. All right. Sanatana Goswami then begged the mercy of the Lord that he can understand and remember and explain what he learned to others. And this is where we left off. Text 326. Sanatana Goswami then requested the Lord, please personally tell me how I can write this difficult book about Vaishnava behavior. Please manifest yourself in my heart. Purport. The writing of Vaishnava literatures is not a function for ordinary men. Vaishnava literatures are not mental concoctions. They are all authorized literatures meant to guide those who are going to be Vaishnavas. Under these circumstances, an ordinary man cannot give his own opinion. His opinion must always correspond with the conclusion of the Vedas. Unless one is fully qualified in Vaishnava behavior and authorized by superior authority, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot write Vaishnava literatures or purports and commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Text 327. If you would please manifest yourself within my heart and personally direct me in writing this book, then, although I am low-born, I may hope to be able to write it. You can do this because you yourself are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and whatever you do, direct, is perfect. 328. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Whatever you want to do, you will be able to do correctly by Lord Krishna's favor. He will manifest the real purport." Purport. Sanatana Goswami was a pure devotee of Krishna. A pure devotee has no business other than serving Krishna. Consequently, Krishna is always ready to help him. This benediction was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, who was authorized to write Vaishnava Smriti. Sanatana Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and through the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was able to write the book perfectly. Text 329. Because you asked me for a synopsis, please hear these few indications. In the beginning, describe how one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. 330. Your book should describe the characteristics of a bona fide guru and a bona fide disciple. Then, before accepting a spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. Similarly, the spiritual master can also be assured of the disciple's position. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, should be described as a worshipable object, and you should describe the Bij mantra for the worship of Krishna, as well as that for Rama and for other expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In the Padma Purana, the characteristics of the Guru, the bona fide spiritual master, have been described. Maha Bhagavata Shreshto Brahmano Vai Gurur Nrinam Sarvesham Evalokanam Asau Pujo Yata Harihi Mahakula Prasuto Pi Sarvajagyeshu Dikshita Sahasra Shakadyayi Cha Naguru Syad Avaishnavaha. The Guru must be situated on the topmost platform of devotional service. There are 3 classes of devotees, and the Guru must be accepted from the topmost class. The first class devotee is the spiritual master for all kinds of people. It is said Gurur Nrinam. The word Nrinam means of all human beings. The Guru is not limited to a particular group. It is stated in the Upadeshamrita of Rupa Goswami that a Guru is a Goswami, a controller of the senses and the mind. Such a Guru can accept disciples from all over the world. Pritivim Nasishyad. This is the test of the Guru. In India, there are many so-called Gurus, and they are limited to a certain district or a certain province. They do not even travel about India, yet they declare themselves to be Jagat Guru, the Guru of the whole world. Such cheating Gurus should not be accepted. Anyone can see how the bona fide spiritual master accepts disciples from all over the world. The Guru is the qualified Brahmana, and therefore he knows Brahman and Parabrahman. He thus devotes his life for the service of Parabrahman. The bona fide spiritual master who accepts disciples from all over the world is also worshipped all over the world because of his qualities. Lokanam asau pujo yata harihi. The people of the world worship him just as they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All these honors are offered to him because he strictly follows the Brahminical principles and teaches these principles to his disciples. Such a person is called an Acharya because he knows the principles of devotional service. He behaves in that way himself, and he teaches his disciples to follow in his footsteps. Thus he is an Acharya, or Jagat Guru. Even though a person is born in a Brahminical family and is very expert in performing sacrifices, he cannot be accepted as a Guru if he is not a strict Vaishnava. A guru is a Brahmana by qualification, and he can turn others into Brahmanas according to the Shastric principles and Brahminical qualifications. Brahmanism is not a question of heredity. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-35, Sri Narada Muni tells Maharaj Yudhishthir what a Brahmana is. He states that if Brahminical qualifications are observed in Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or even Shudras, one should accept them as Brahmanas. In this regard, Srila Sridhar Swami has commented, Shemadibir eva brahmanadi vyabhaharo mukyaha najati matradetyaha yasyeti yadi anyatra varnantare pidrishita tad varnantaram tenaiva lakshana nimitenaiva varnena vinirdishet natu jati nimatenyati artaha. The most important criterion for deciding whether to deal with someone as a Brahmana or as a member of another Varna is the presence or absence of self-control and similar Brahminical qualities. We should not judge primarily according to superficial characteristics like birth. This is stated in the verse beginning Yasya. If the qualities, that's 7:11-35. If the qualities of one Varna are seen in someone born in another, he should be designated according to the Varna of his qualities, not that of his birth. There is a similar statement made by Nilakanta, a commentator on the Mahabharata. Shudro pishamad yupeto brahmana eva brahmano pikamad yupita shudra eva. Although one may be born in a Shudra family, if he is endowed with the Brahminical qualities, beginning with Shama, control of the mind, he is to be accepted as a Brahmana. Although one may be born in a Brahmana family, no one should present himself as a Brahmana simply on the basis of being born in a Brahmana family. One must be qualified by the Brahminical qualities mentioned in the Shastras, particularly the Bhagavad Gita 18:42, Shamo damas tapak shaucham chantir arjivam eva cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahmakarma swabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Unless one is qualified with all these attributes, he cannot be accepted as a Brahmana. It is not a question of simply taking birth in a Brahmana family. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Goswami, although not born in Brahmana families, are accepted as bona fide spiritual masters because they were Brahmanas by qualification. Personalities like Sri Ganga Narayana, Ramakrishna, and many others who were actually born in Brahmana families accepted Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Goswami as their spiritual masters. The Mahabhagavat is one who decorates his body with tilak and whose name indicates him to be a servant of Krishna by the word dasa. He is also initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and is expert in worshipping the deity, chanting mantras correctly, performing sacrifices, offering prayers to the Lord, and performing Sankirtan. He knows how to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how to respect a Vaishnava. When one has attained the topmost position of Mahabhagavata, he is to be considered a guru and worshipped exactly like Hari, the personality of Godhead. Only such a person is eligible to occupy the post of a guru. However, if one is highly qualified but is not a Vaishnava, he cannot be accepted as a guru. One cannot be a Brahmana unless one is a Vaishnava. If one is a Vaishnava, he is already a Brahmana. If a guru is completely qualified as a Vaishnava, he must be accepted as a Brahmana, even if he is not born in a Brahmana family. The caste system method of distinguishing a Brahmana by birth is not acceptable when applied to a bona fide spiritual master. A spiritual master is a qualified Brahmana and Acharya. One who is not a qualified Brahmana and is not expert in studying the Vedic literatures, Nana, Shastra, Vichara, Naika, Nipunao, cannot become a guru. Every Vaishnava is a spiritual master, and a spiritual master is automatically expert in Brahminical behavior. He also understands the Vedic Shastras. Similarly, a disciple's qualifications must be observed by the spiritual master before he is accepted as a disciple. In our Krishna consciousness movement, the requirement is that one must be prepared to give up the 4 pillars of sinful life, illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. In Western countries especially, we first observe whether a potential disciple is prepared to follow the regulated principles. Then he is given the name of a Vaishnava servant and initiated to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, at least 16 rounds daily. In this way, the disciple renders devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master or his representative for at least 6 months to a year. He is then recommended for a second initiation, during which a sacred thread is offered and the disciple is accepted as a bona fide Brahmana. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced the system of giving the sacred thread to a bona fide Vaishnava, and we are following in his footsteps. The qualifications of a bona fide disciple are described in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.10.6 as follows: Amanya matsaro daksho nirmamo dridasaudidaha asatvador ta jigyasur anasuyur amogavak. The disciple must have the following qualifications. He must give up interest in the material bodily conception. He must give up material lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. He should be interested only in understanding the science of God, and he should be ready to consider all points in this matter. He should no longer think, I am this body, or this thing belongs to me. One must love the spiritual master with unflinching faith, and one must be very steady and fixed. The bona fide disciple should be inquisitive to understand transcendental subject matter. He must not search out faults among good qualities, and he should no longer be interested in material topics. His only interest should be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as the mutual testing of the spiritual master and disciple is concerned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that a bona fide disciple must be very inquisitive to understand the transcendental subject matter. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21, Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. One who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him. A serious disciple must be alert when selecting a bona fide spiritual master. He must be sure that the spiritual master can deliver all the transcendental necessities. The spiritual master must observe how inquisitive the disciple is and how eager he is to understand the transcendental subject matter. The spiritual master should study the disciple's inquisitiveness for no less than 6 months or a year. A spiritual master should not be very anxious to accept a disciple because of his material opulences. Sometimes a big businessman or landlord may approach a spiritual master for initiation. Those who are materially interested are called vishayis, karmis, which indicates that they are very fond of sense gratification. Such vishayis sometimes approach a famous guru and ask to become a disciple just as a matter of fashion, and advertise themselves as advanced in spiritual knowledge. In other words, they want to attain material success. A spiritual master must be very careful in this regard. Such business is going on all over the world. A spiritual master does not accept a materially opulent disciple just to advertise the fact that he has such a big disciple. He knows that by associating with such Vishayi disciples, he may fall down. One who accepts a Vishayi disciple is not a bona fide spiritual master. Even if he is, his position may be damaged due to association with an unscrupulous Vishayi. If a so-called spiritual master accepts a disciple for his personal benefit or for material gain, the relationship between the spiritual master and disciple turns into a material affair, and the spiritual master becomes like a smarta guru. There are many caste Goswamis who professionally create some disciples who do not care for them or their instructions. Such spiritual masters are satisfied simply to get some material benefits from their disciples. Such a relationship is condemned by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who calls such spiritual masters and disciples a society of cheaters and cheated. They are also called Baulas or Prakrita Sahajas. Their aim is to make the connection between the spiritual master and the disciple into a very cheap thing. They are not serious in wanting to understand spiritual life. The words Sevya Bhagavan in this verse of Caitanya-caritämrta are important. Bhagavan indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu alone is worshipable. There is no need to worship demigods. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:20. Kamais taistaya vrittijnana prapadyantain yadevataha tam tam niyamamastaya prakritya niyatak swaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. It is also stated in the Skanda Purana, Vasudevam Prityaja Yonya Devam Upasate Swamataram Prityaja Shwapachim Bandate Hisaha. A person who worships the demigods and gives up Lord Vasudeva is like a man who gives up the protection of his mother for the shelter of a witch. It is also stated by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 9:23, Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shadayanvitaha tepimam evikonteya yajantya vidipurvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. Demigods are also living entities and parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, in one sense, one worships Krishna when one worships the demigods, but not in the proper way. There is a proper method to water a tree. one should water the root. But if one waters the leaves and branches instead, he is simply wasting his time. If one worships the demigods to the exclusion of Lord Vishnu, his rewards will only be material, as confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 7.23. Antavat tupalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedasam devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Demigod worship is meant for unintelligent men because the benefits derived from demigod worship are all material, temporary, and retractable. It is also stated in the Padma Purana, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahmarudradi Daivataihi Samatmenaiva Viksheta Sapashandi Bhaved Dhruvam. Whoever thinks Lord Vishnu and the demigods are on the same level is to be immediately considered a rogue as far as spiritual understanding is concerned. There are three modes of nature in the material world. But when one is situated spiritually, he is above the material modes, even though he lives in this material world. As Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita 14.26, Mam chayobhya bhitarina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatichaitam brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. In material consciousness, however, even one who is situated in the mode of goodness is susceptible to pollution by the modes of passion and ignorance. When the mode of goodness is mixed with the mode of passion, one worships the sun god, Vivaswan. When the mode of goodness is mixed with the mode of ignorance, one worships a Ganapati or Ganesh. When the mode of passion is mixed with the mode of ignorance, one worships Durga or Kali, the external potency. When one is simply in the mode of goodness, one becomes a devotee of Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is the predominating deity of the mode of ignorance within this material world. However, when one is completely free from the influence of all the modes of material nature, one becomes a pure Vaishnava on the devotional platform. As Srila Rupa Goswami states in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anukul yena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental, loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. The position of Vishuddha Sattva is the position of uncontaminated goodness. On that platform, one can understand Aradyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Taddama Vrindavanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is to be worshipped along with his transcendental abode, Vrindavan. The word Sarva Mantra Vicharana in the present verse of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta means considering all different types of mantras. There are different kinds of mantras for different kinds of devotees. There is the mantra known as there is the mantra known as the Dwadashakshara mantra, composed of 12 syllables, and there is the mantra composed of 18 syllables. Similarly, there are the Narasingha mantra, the Rama mantra, the Gopal mantra, and so on. Each and every mantra has its own special significance. The spiritual master has to select a mantra for his disciple according to the disciple's ability to chant different mantras. Wow, what a purport. Every once in a while, Prabhupada will write a purport that has everything in it. This is one of those purports. And he does it to keep reminding us what we have to do, how we have to be, what is the actual process. Because over time, by the nature of time, we tend to forget. We may get involved in all the details and forget how we're supposed to really be and what we're supposed to be. And how we're supposed to act. Text 331. You should discuss the qualifications necessary for receiving a mantra, the perfection of the mantra, the purification of the mantra, initiation, morning duties, remembrance of the Supreme Lord, cleansing and washing the mouth and other parts of the body. Purport. The following injunction is given in the Hari Bhakti Vilas 1:194 regarding mantra adhikar, the qualification for receiving mantra initiation. Tantridikeshu chamantreshu dikshayam yoshitam api sadvinam adhikarosti shudraninam chasaddiyam. Shudras and women who are chaste and sincerely interested in understanding the absolute truth are qualified to be initiated with the Pancharatrika mantras. This is confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 9:32. Mami parte vipashritya yepisyu papayonayaha striyo vaishas tata shudras tepiyanti padam gatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. If one actually wants to serve Krishna, it doesn't matter whether one is a Shudra, Vaishya, or even a woman. If one is sincerely eager to chant the Hare Krishna mantra or Diksha mantra, one is qualified to be initiated according to the Pancharatrika process. However, according to Vedic principles, only a Brahmana who is fully engaged in his occupational duties can be initiated. Shudras and women are not admitted to the Vaidika initiation. Unless one is fit, according to the estimation of the spiritual master, one cannot accept a mantra from the Pancharatrika Vidi or the Vaidika Vidi. When one is fit to accept the mantra, one is initiated by the Pancharatrika Vidi or the Vaidika Vidi. In any case, the result is the same. Regarding mantra Siddhyadi Shodhana, the efficacy of the mantra, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives 16 divisions, which are confirmed in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, beginning with 1:204. Siddha Sadhya Shusidari Kramaj Yeyo Vichakshanahi. There are 1. Siddha, 2. Sadhya, 3. Susiddha, and 4. Ari. These 4 principles can be divided further. 1. Siddha Siddha, 2. Siddha Sadhya, 3. Siddha Susiddha, 4. Siddha Ari, 5. Sadhya Siddha, 6. Sadhya Sadhya, 7. Sadhya Susiddha, 8. Sadhya Ari, 9. Susiddha Siddha, 10. Susida Sadhya. 11. Susida Susida. 12. Susida Ari. 13. Ari Siddha. 14. Ari Sadhya. 15. Ari Susida. And 16. Ari Ari. Those who are initiated with the 18-syllable mantra do not need to consider the above mentioned 16 divisions, as enjoined in the Hari Bhakti Vilas 1, 215, 219, and 220. Nachatra Shatrava Dosha Narnashvadi Vicharana Riksha Rashi Vicharo Va Na Kartavyo Manau Priye Natra Chintyo Rishuddhyadir Nari Mitrari Lakshanam Siddhasadhya Susiddhari Rupa Natra Vicharanam. There is Shodhana, or purification of the mantra, but there is no such consideration for the Krishna mantra. Balitvat Krishna mantranam Sankchap Sankchik Sankchara Pekshanam Nahi. The Krishna mantra is so strong that there is no question of Shodhana. Hari Bhakti Vilas 1, 235. As far as Diksha is concerned, one should consult Madhya-lila 15.108. On the whole, when a person is initiated according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi, he has already attained the position of a Brahmana. This is enjoined in the Hari Bhakti Vilas 2.12. Yata kanchanatam yati kankshyam rasavidanataha tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. As bell metal can be turned into gold when treated with mercury, a disciple initiated by a bona fide guru immediately attains the position of a Brahmana. As far as the time of Diksha, initiation, is concerned, everything depends on the position of the guru. As soon as a bona fide guru is received by chance or by a program, one should immediately take the opportunity to receive initiation. In the book called Tattva Sagara, it is stated, if by chance one gets a Sadguru, it doesn't matter whether one is in the temple or the forest. If the Sadguru, the bona fide spiritual master, agrees, one can be initiated immediately without waiting for a suitable time or place. Concerning Pratak Smriti, remembrance of the Lord in the morning, in the early morning hours, known as Brahma Muhurta, one should get up and immediately chant the Hare Krishna mantra, or at least Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. In this way, one should remember one should remember Krishna. Some shlokas or prayers should also be chanted. By chanting, one immediately becomes auspicious and transcendental to the infection of material qualities. Actually, one has to chant and remember Lord Krishna 24 hours daily, or as much as possible. Smartavya Satatam Vishnur Vismartavyo Najatuchit Sarve Vida Nisheda Sarva Vidi Nisheda Sur Etayor Eva Kinkaraha. Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras should be the servants of these two principles. This is a quotation from the Padma Purana, from the portion called Brihat Sahasranama Stotra. The word Pratak Kritya in the present verse of the Caitanya-caritämrta means that one should evacuate regularly in the morning and then cleanse himself by taking a bath. One has to gargle, achaman, and brush his teeth, dantradhavana. He should do this either with twigs or a toothbrush, whatever is available. This will purify the mouth. Then one should take his bath. Actually, householders and vanaprasthas should bathe 2 times a day. Pratar madhyanayo snanam vanaprastha grihastayoho. A sannyasi should take 3 times daily, and a brahmachari may take only 1 bath a day. Whenever one is not able to bathe in water, he can bathe by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. One also has to perform his sanyadi varana. That is, one has to chant his Gayatri mantra 3 times daily, morning, noon, and evening. And we will stop right here. It's 8 o'clock. Time to start to wind down. But first, we will hear the reflections, comments of the assembled sages. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
First, we have a question from Karen.
We have a question from Karen. Hare Krishna, Karen. Welcome aboard again.
She says, please accept my humble obeisances. I'm hesitant to ask this question because I don't want to be controversial or be disrespectful. Based on what we read about initiating someone based on practice and not material birth, I'm confused about why women can't be considered guru or sannyas. I wasn't going to ask, but we also just read this instruction on being inquisitive.
Because, first of all, we don't say that a woman cannot be a guru. We do say that a woman cannot be a sannyasi. Because the body of the woman is differently constructed than a man. And it is by nature weaker. We say this unequivocally because there is no sporting event in the history of the world in which a woman's record is more than a man's record. Clear. There's a physical difference, and we should recognize that difference. So the fact is that the sannyasi is required to go by himself anywhere, whether it be in a forest or a city or country or traveling by himself. And a woman who is in that position as a sannyasi, attracting that much attention, is liable to be exploited, is liable to be taken advantage of by stronger men. So that's one reason. But there's not a reason that a woman cannot be a guru. As a matter of fact, all women must be gurus. They must be guru to their children. And they should be guru in general to be the right examples for others. They generally don't become Diksha Gurus, but that doesn't mean that they can't be Diksha Gurus. But in the history of our Sampradaya, there are very few female Diksha Gurus, because the female Diksha Guru has to be in the front, and he has to be, all eyes are on them all the time, and every moment, every movement is scrutinized by everyone, sannyasis also. And that generally makes the feminine body feel uncomfortable, generally, if they're actually not degraded and fallen and like to have men look at them, and they're looking for that kind of thing. They're not even in the category of human beings anyway, what to speak of spiritual master or disciples. So those are just, it's a long subject. I recommend highly that you watch a video that was put out recently by His Holiness Shivaram Swami, where he analyzes very clearly Srila Prabhupada's instructions simply from his books, not from letters and instructions that may be specifically for an individual person and may be considered private, which Prabhupada said were generally private. They shouldn't be circulated. And then understand. But that doesn't mean that a woman cannot be guru. But it just means that the Diksha Guru has a different function than the Shiksha Gurus or the Vartma Pradarshika Guru. Dhruva Maharaja's mother was his Vartma Pradarshika Guru, for instance. Janava Mata acted as not just guru, female guru, but an acharya of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas at that time, after Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda left this world. Gangamata Swami used to initiate disciples, and there are others, but they're very few in number, because generally women don't step forward and want to be guru. The women are by nature are shy. They're not. How do I say? They don't like being the center of attention of a large number of people in general. There are always exceptions to every rule, but that's just the nature of the woman and the difference of the man, and therefore the Shastras prescribe it. And we accept the Shastras as our authorities. In the Western world, especially in the open democracies, the tendency is for people to become more and more independent and more individualistic, and eventually they don't accept any authority, eventually. Nowadays, in America, millions of people refuse to wear the masks that are actually proven to be effective in stopping the spread of this horrendous pandemic that is sweeping the world right now and turning the whole world upside down. And some people they don't believe it, because they've been trained to think that you're the one and you're more important than anyone and so many things. But the real culture, the real spiritual culture, is to actually consider oneself a servant of God and a servant of others, therefore. Anyway, I know that I rambled a little bit. It's a very controversial subject right now, but if you watch this video by His Holiness Shivaram Swami, at least you'll understand the opinion of some. But the GBC resolutions say that they can. But they also have to be approved by and get the blessings of the senior devotees of the movement, just like the men do. Hare Krishna. I hope that helps to some degree.
She says, thank you for that answer. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There's a question from Bhakta Ben.
Hmm?
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. The part about giving up the shelter of one's mother for the shelter of a witch really stood out to me today.
Yeah, that kind of stuck with me also. That was a strong statement, a different statement.
It says, how can we ensure we don't accidentally take shelter of the witch called Maya?
Well, you have to find out what Maya is, first of all. You have to find out what the difference is between Maya and Krishna, or Maya and the spiritual energy, or the soul and matter. First of all, you have to be educated. Spiritual education is necessary for everyone. If you're looking for gold, and you don't know what gold is, and you don't know how to test for what gold, whether something is gold or not, you may get cheated very easily. So that's the how do you say, the mission of human life is to search for the truth and to find out the basic qualities and the basic requirements. And that's why Lord Chaitanya is instructing Sanatana Goswami to write the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which has very strong directions and intimate and what's the word? Detailed instructions of how one should behave in order to become qualified for spiritual advancement and to seek the Brahma Jigyasya, Atato Brahma Jigyasya. It's actually the human being who searches for the absolute truth. If one is in a human body and does not search after the absolute truth, Brahma Jigyasa, then he is to be considered an animal, even though he's in a human body. And therefore you see so much quarreling going on now, on all levels and on matters that are completely unimportant. They fight over anything. I mentioned already that they're fighting over a mask, whether they should wear one or not, or whether they have to wear it or not. And they won't take, injunctions coming from the government to try to protect the citizens, logically and compassionately, in order to stop the spread of a deadly virus. I mean, anyway, Hare Krishna.
It's a comment from Rati Manjari.
Hare Krishna, Rati.
She says, Draguru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Haribo, Haribo.
Sorry I am late tonight. We had a wonderful day of Harinam and book distribution by your blessings and the devotees' blessings.
Well, there you have it. Life is good when you're going out and doing Harinam and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that report. And those of us who are debilitated or, recovering from major surgery and stuff like that and can't do that kind of activity, we just try to do so in our minds, and we also try to encourage everyone we talk to and everyone we meet to do that. Hare Krishna.
Next is a question from Vrajaloka Devidasi.
Hare Krishna, Vrajaloka.
She says, Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to you. Thank you for the reading and your company. In today's reading, I love the description of the qualities of the bona fide Guru and disciple and their relationship. Would you be so kind to elaborate on what does it mean to love the spiritual master with unflinching faith, and how can we gain such love? That's the first half. There's a second after that.
Well, this is a huge subject. Huge. And we're right at the end. So I don't know how much justice I can do to this question. How do I learn to love the spiritual master? How do I learn to love Krishna? By association. love is not some kind of instant, flash of, insight or energy. It can be like that. It's not that that's not possible, but in general, real love comes from service over time. When I was living in Govardhan, and for quite some time I lived there continuously while we were refurbishing the building and securing with a boundary wall and all those things that go on in developing a property in India. And there was, just down the road, just a few plots down the road, there was a big ashram, the Modi ashram, and the person who purchased and developed that ashram, his name was K.N. Modi, and he was in the family of brothers. I think there were, I don't remember how many brothers, 3 or 4 or 5 or something, and they were probably one of the 5 richest families in India. Huge. Just to give you an idea, this man bought Firestone tires with cash. That's how big he was. So anyway, he had considered purchasing the property that we got for our ashram because he liked the building. It was very aristocratic and special design. But when he saw it, it wasn't big enough to do what he wanted to do. So he got another property and built his own from scratch. And he wouldn't have touched that building because that building was like what do they call buildings that are specially protected by the government? Heritage sites or something like that. Anyway, we got to know each other, and I was editing the Madhya-lila at the time, and he was very interested, and we would have talks. And every time he would come, he would only be there for a few days at a time, but when he did come, he would always have me come over and have breakfast with him and talk spiritual life. So one of these visits, his wife came. He was at this time he was in his 80s, and the wife must be also in the 80s, and well preserved and very bright and cultured people, very cultured. So one time I was watching them, I was with them and I was watching them, and I looked at them and I said, this is such a wonderful example that you're giving, that you've been so loyal to each other for so many years. And how many years? And they said, it was either 55 or 60 years they had been married. And I just looked at them and I was amazed. And I said, what is your secret? And they both looked at me, and simultaneously they did this little Indian nod, with the head. It is our duty. And I could see that for a lifetime of service with one another, they deeply loved each other. Love has nothing to do with sense gratification, how bodily beautiful you are, and how strong you are at sex, and how much you can satisfy the other person sexually. That is just lust. That is not real love. Love, it means when you care for the person, and you care for a person by getting to know them intimately and serving one another for a very long time. And that's how real love develops. So the same principle applies in Krishna consciousness. When you meet someone that you are attracted to and you want to have a loving relationship with, you want to know more about them, don't you? Isn't it? You have just, I don't know what they call them nowadays, but over time, with service and learning what pleases the other person and acting in a way to please the other person, and vice versa, then there's loving relationship. Hare Krishna.
In the second half of this, can you please also explain what does it mean that, quote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has to be worshipped along with his transcendental abode, Vrindavan. Why is it important to worship the Lord's abode as well?
Because the abode of the Lord is the Lord. The abode of the Lord and the Lord are non-different from one another. They're the same. Therefore, when you worship the Lord, you also automatically worship his abode, and when you worship his abode, you automatically worship him. They're non-different. In the Lord's abode, everyone loves Krishna. You go to Vrindavan, everywhere you go, people are going Hare Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Hare Krishna, Jaya Radhe. It's like everywhere. Everyone's got bead bags on their hands. Of course, now it's becoming degraded externally, but that's the underlying atmosphere in the Holy Dham. We worship the Holy Dham because just by being in the Holy Dham, you become Krishna conscious. The temples, our temples, are supposed to be holy dhams, like Vrindavan. Whenever a Radha Krishna deity is worshipped, is established and installed properly, and are being worshipped properly, then that place, the surrounding place, the building, and everything becomes transcendental abode. It's one of the 5 most important items of devotional service, as we heard before a few days ago. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan.
Rajaloka says, thank you very much for this wonderful personal answer.
Hare Krishna.
And Rati Manjari says, I will send you some photos and movies.
Thank you, Rati. Keep me in the game. Thanks. Okay?
Oh, something just came from Vilasini Devidasi.
Vilasini Devidasi from Australia. It must be
West Virginia.
West Virginia Vilasini. Oh, yes, right.
She says, thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful explanation about women being guru or taking sannyas. Maharaj, your readings and your explanations are beyond this material world, and I'm getting addicted to it. Thank you, your servant.
Anyway, thank you very much. I just tried to repeat what I've heard from Srila Prabhupada. That's all. And that's the secret to being a devotee at this time, in this place. Hare Krishna. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Sama Veda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. We'll see you tomorrow night. Same place, the Haven. Same subjects. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.